Hey, Dental Nachos crew, this is Paul, Dr. Nacho, and we're on an episode of Spicy Toppings. We have an awesome guest with us today, D2, Brandon, who's going to tell us about himself. What do we do on Spicy Toppings? We have some of the uncomfortable conversations, the conversations we need to have at all ages and stages in our dental lives. But I want to welcome our guest. Brandon, tell the Nachoverse who you are, where you are in dentistry, and what's going on in your dental life.
Thanks, Dr. Goodman. So as you said, my name is Brandon. I'm a student from Michigan, and I attend the University of Detroit Mercy. This is my second year, just beginning the second semester of the second year. So pretty much from what we've heard, the roughest one, and looking at our schedule, that's what it seems to be. Where would you like me to go from here, Doctor?
Basically, tell us this. So when people say, what's like to own a dental practice? I'll be like, it's like having a 3-year-old that never grows up for the rest of your life. Or so it's like running a circus where the animals don't try to eat you, just slowly annoy you to death along the way. So tell us, you were a D1 pre-pandemic. Now you're a D2. What is the D2 year like during the pandemic? What's it feel like? And what are some of the differences pre-pandemic, during the pandemic for the life of a dental student?
Right. Well, pre-pandemic, for me, it was a little difficult, mostly because of the commute. So I live roughly about 45 minutes, I would say, from the dental school, and I'm commuting to save as much money as possible just because of the sky-high tuition rates that we have. But with that being said, 45 minutes one way, an hour and a half a day, 5 days a week, that's almost, 10 hours or so, every week that we're just, spending just commuting. And then you got to worry about studying after you get home and all that stuff. And I myself, speaking on a personal level, I'm not the type to have the best attention span to get through the whole, class period and remember everything that I learned. So, being in this situation, of course, the pandemic is extremely unfortunate, but one positive thing that has come out of it, which I actually vouched for during my first year, was now our classes are all online and we can study. Everything is recorded as it was in the first year while everything was in person, yet class was still mandatory attendance. But now it's, like I said, everything is recorded online, so we can watch the recordings and the lectures on our own time.
That's great.
We can rewind it, we can pause it, we can fast forward it, we can watch it at faster speeds and get through stuff more efficiently. So that's been a very positive thing that's come out of the second year, and I think it's
I love that. I don't want to cut you off, but that's why I've created things like Dental Nacho Flicks, our Dental Nachopedia, and just all things, because we want to have content in our phone, whether it's for investing, whether it's for dentistry, that you can consume at any time, right? And when I went to dental school back in the olden days of 1999, we had to sit in lecture, and we had a transcription service where people would type out the notes. But a couple things about that: you couldn't hear the audio again, you couldn't see it visually, and I think to fit with the Nacho theme, learning has a lot of different toppings to it. And I just think traditionally the dental school education has not really taught in a way where the toppings promoted the best learning, because some people are visual, some people are audio.
Right.
And I think it made it sort of like a memorization contest if you were there. So I like that. So thanks for this. Now, Spicy Toppings is about unique things people do. So you're a D2. We're going to talk about some concerns in dentistry, but tell us about your life in real estate. Dentists love real estate. They love talking about real estate. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, and for good reason. I mean, real estate is the best way to build your wealth, and you'll have countless successful people tell you that. But my relationship with real estate right now is before dental school, as I mentioned to you, prior to hopping on this Facebook Live, was I worked my whole life. Yeah. Starting at the age of 15, I come from a working family, and I just, I always worked for myself so that I can, afford the things that I wanted.
That's great.
Once dental school starts, as a million dental students will tell you, you don't have a lot of time on your hands, so you really can't afford to work, come dental school. Right. But what you'll realize, or what I realized at least, after my first semester of being in dental school, was that I kind of reflected on my time, and I made a bunch of friends throughout the first semester, and we spent a lot of time together, and I just kind of thought to myself during the winter break, I was thinking back, and the thought that really occurred to me was, why spend so much time, going out and having fun where I can be efficient and proactive and find, like a hobby that can also help to pay for my dental school? Because like I've said, earlier, tuition rates are sky high. So people will tell you you're gonna, you can worry about the debt later, but I'm just not that type, and I think you can always be proactive about a situation. So
That's a really great point. I mean, I would use the example of, whether it's fitness, whether it's investing, whether it's your skills in anything, you have to be proactive and build a little bit along the way. So how is real estate? I talk a lot about, to be a good dentist, you have to sell. And that really makes dentists upset. So I say, okay, I won't say sell, I'll say share. You have to connect with and motivate people to move forward, right out of Daniel Pink's To Sell Is Human, a great book. Highly recommend To Sell Is Human. So I can reframe a word to make it sound better to dentists. Oh, you don't have to sell, dentists. You have to connect and move people forward. It's the same thing as selling, by the way, Brandon. But tell us a little bit about your sales background. How do you think that might help you in the world of dentistry when it comes time for you to be in private practice?
Yeah, for sure. So, what I've learned over the past year or so of selling real estate is I've gained a lot of experience in showing people what they like, what they may not even know they like, and what's best for them. Right. So some people might be looking for a certain house with certain amenities that they don't even know that they can afford. They don't understand that sometimes they'll be looking for a house with a pool, and the upkeep of the pool is way out of their budget. They can afford the house and the payments, but like I said, the upkeep of the pool is something that they don't understand. So I think that can be applied to dentistry when you're looking at different treatment options and treatment plans. Yeah, one treatment may be a little bit cheaper and better for a patient, but in the long run, they're going to end up paying more for multiple treatments because of the fact that, if they would have paid just a little bit more upfront in the beginning,
Right.
to secure a better treatment, it would have lasted years and years longer.
Such
So
great value there, Brandon, because I always say this, my secret to case acceptance is this. It's an easy secret. Anyone can have it. I don't care what the patient chooses. I don't care. But I care a lot about describing the menu. So I describe it. I put a lot of effort into maintain the tooth, not save it like Private Ryan, remove the tooth, not rip it out of your head, do nothing. And then at the end, I don't care what they choose. And that really comes off of me, but I put a lot of effort into the menu. Too often dentists make themselves very stressed by caring what the patient chooses, and it's not their mouth. It's also, people will surprise you. And I bet you this has happened to you. It's as old as the movie Pretty Woman, or even my mom would say this as kids. She'd go into a department store with 3 kids, and everyone would be kind of like in kid mode, and maybe they wouldn't give her the time of day back in the 80s to buy something, but maybe she was going to buy a whole new dining room set. So I don't judge anyone as to what they can pay for. I mean, if any of your clients surprise you, think they're never going to buy a $500,000 house, and then they buy it and that surprise you. Has that happened to you?
no, not just yet. But I definitely know what you're saying, and I understand where you're coming from.
And the reason I bring that is that will happen to you both as a real estate agent and a dentist, because there was a woman in my practice. So I don't judge anyone. I give everyone the option to say no to the best treatment, no to the best house. And there was a woman who had 10 cats, came in, said her dentist never told her about implants. I immediately thought she was lying. And I immediately thought that the dentist did tell her. I kept that in my head, gave her all the options. My patient care coordinator came in, and we had a fixed implant case for $50,000, removable for 30, a denture and 2 implants for 10. I went back to my office, said to my patient care coordinator, go tell her about the cost. In my mind, I said, she's going to choose nothing. Said, maybe she's going to choose the $10,000 plan. Patient care coordinator came back and said, she's going to bring a check for $30,000 next week to get started. And I said, wow, that really surprised me. And on the other end, Brandon, I have patients who drive cars that are that are 6-figure cars who don't want to spend money on a crown. So that happens. So give the patient the menu, let them choose, is such a valuable thing to decrease your stress. So you mentioned debt, and I don't know if like 1 million people are watching it now, maybe 2 million on Nacho TV, but some people are totally unaware of what dental school costs. So just tell us, what does your dental school cost?
Sure. So my dental school is a private dental school, and once again, that's the University of Detroit Mercy, and our tuition, is just under $90,000 a year, and that's just for tuition and fees. It doesn't include, room and board and anything like that if you're moving in from out of state, or even if you're in state and just looking to get closer to the school. So that's just tuition and fees alone.
So if someone was to go to your dental school and take out debt, like these two are very surprised here, $500,000, sharing the awareness, JBR, just real is key. So you have $500,000 in debt to go to this school. What are some concerns that you have as you move into the real world of dentistry? You could ask me one thing or say, hey, this is what I'm concerned about. What would be a concern that you have?
Right. So just personally, one of my concerns is just repayment. Of course, anyone will tell you that you can definitely easily repay the debt, once you graduate. But the reason for my concern is because I have certain things I'd like to do as far as investing goes, post graduation, that debt this high is going to hold me back from doing so, at least for a certain period of time. So that's definitely something to consider. I mean, there's definitely dental schools with lower tuition rates out there, and I encourage you to look into those. I mean, just for example, there's one other dental school in the state, the University of Michigan, and their tuition rates are about half of that. So you're looking roughly 45 to 50,000 a year over at U of M for a similar education. And that's, it's just there's an example of the discrepancy, and you'll see a lot of that throughout the nation.
So what you shared is you should be concerned about the debt. When people say something is no big deal, that's like saying, I'll eat processed food and not exercise. It won't be a big deal later. And then they gain 50 pounds and they injure themselves, or they can't be as active. People say, I'll worry about retirement later. And I was just on a call this morning, no joke, with a retiring dentist who needs to sell their practice, and they haven't saved for retirement. That's a big problem when they're about to retire. So if you think of debt, like my friend here, we go over this way. I don't know how to do it this way. Yeah, Mr. Grumbly. That's your debt. How can you fix it, Brandon? What can you do is look at this photo behind me of your dentist and core. Your dental core is your mind, your words, and your hand skills. And what is going to help you get out of debt is not just your hand skills, it's your business and word skills. What you say to patients. I hope the answer to this is yes, because I'm here someone to kindly annoy dental schools to do better. What courses in dental school do they have on patient communication and treatment plan acceptance?
We do have one class. It's more so of like an ethics class. It's called we call it IPE just for short. But like I said, that's our ethics class. That's pretty much as close as we get.
So what's crazy to me, what's nacho nuts, is they probably will spend hours teaching you how to do an amalgam, even though it's rarely used. Not never, rarely. They probably will teach you how to prep a bridge from 4 to 6 for hours, but people don't do that often. I wish they would reorganize some of their attention and hours, but I don't think that's happening. So what can you do? Podcast, join virtual Toastmasters.
Yeah.
How about this? Do they give a course on how to read a P&L? Have you heard of that course in dental school?
Not yet, at least.
How about this? How to find a job after dental school? Do they have a lot of courses on that?
Not that I've heard of.
So they charge people $500,000. You need a job to pay off the $500,000, and they don't have course on this, which is just so irresponsible. Do it all. Put it all on the nacho plate. So if I can give you one medium-aged dentist piece of advice, is develop your dental core while you're doing your hand skills, because you have your entire life to practice crown preps. When I go to a dentist at the end of his career or her career, not one of them have said, you know what, Paul, I never could figure out the crown prep. You took the burr around the tooth. No, all of them have that. You know what they say? I didn't know how to run a team. I overspent. I bought too small of a practice because I was afraid of debt. These are the real things that, just like being proactive early in your career about debt, be proactive about developing your dental core. Go ahead.
And I just want to, put one more point out there. It's financial literacy. Right. A lot of dentists are great dentists. And they're extremely smart people, smart individuals. And the problem is, though, when they graduate, of course, they can do the dental work, and they may work under someone for the first year or two, and then decide to open their own practice out of passion. But you'll see a lot of those practices fail because they have no financial literacy when it comes to the business side of things. So it's unfortunate, and I really encourage people to learn more about finance and more about business if they decide to open their own practice one day, just to prevent failure in the future.
And I'm gonna kindly annoy my good new friend Brandon. You're a D2, right? And I run courses for free. We're running one actually after this on how to find a job. And now I use Instagram so I can be cool like you guys. And I DM people and say, hey, Sunday night, I'm doing a course on how to buy your first practice. It's free. You should watch in. Hey, Monday afternoon, we're doing a course on how to find a job. And all these amazing dental students say to me the same thing. I would love to watch in, but I have a test on biochemistry. I would love to watch in, but I have a dental materials test. And I'm going to share with you, and Mark Costas, my good friend, would agree. It's better to get a worse grade on a test and build your core in dental school, because the real world is coming quicker than you think. And this is me at Washington Square Park, same hat and everything. And kindly annoying people into good ideas is what George Washington had to do. You think when he suggested they row across an icy river, all his men were like, oh yeah, that sounds good. He probably had to kindly annoy them into a not so ordinary idea.
Right.
So I'm going to put you in charge of kindly annoying other dental students into developing that dental core, because you did an awesome job with real estate. And that's what you're going to find is going to really help you out in the real world.
Thank you. And you know what? The fact that you say that is funny because I was, basically put onto your platform by a friend, my friend Marcel, who.
Oh yeah, I like it. He's a great guy.
Right. He told me about you. He said you guys have spoke a few times, and he's the one who kindly annoyed me plenty of times to, basically help me be more proactive on the dentistry aspect of things. And he's taught me that I need to look into videos like yours and stuff like that from now and not at a later date, because it's always better to be proactive.
I love that. I appreciate Marcel doing that. Natalie, we send Marcel a t-shirt for that, for annoying him, because at the end of our life is a game. So dreams don't come true. I'm sorry to say that, Brandon. I don't know if I just have to tell you, my parents, they lied to me, because dreams don't come true, because my dream was to play in the NBA. And that did not come true. It's also my daughter's basketball. I can't palm a basketball. But life is about dribbling, passing, shooting, scoring, defending at the same time. Dentistry is about doing it all at the same time. And unfortunately, dental school overvalues dribbling. And you say, are we going to learn to shoot? And they say you're going to learn it later. But they're charging you hundreds of thousands of dollars to be able to shoot in the game of the real world. So whether they catch up or don't catch up, people like you and Marcel, you can find not so ordinary platforms, podcasts, dental nachos, other people, dental clinical pearls, and absorb it all. As we wrap up here, Brandon, I promised I wouldn't become this guy, but I become this guy. I had it worse than you. So watch this. I didn't have it worse than you with debt, not even close. I didn't have it worse for you with job opportunities, not even close, whether I worked with my dad or his, but what I had worse was there were no podcasts. There were no dental nachos. There were no virtual events. So if I saw a lecture and I couldn't remember it and scribble it down in a notebook, I couldn't retain that information. Wow. And what you guys have at your fingertips, literally all the time, is not only the ability to learn, but also connect. Yeah. The ability to DM somebody and say, hey, I'm going to be looking for a job in Texas. I see you're a dentist in Texas. Would you have any leads? That's what I encourage you guys to do more of as you move towards graduation.
Definitely. Great point.
Well, appreciate you sharing on Spicy Toppings. It's been a great episode. I always like to share this. If someone wanted to follow you on Instagram, follow you on Snapagram, that's not even a thing yet, but maybe it will be. How can they reach out to you directly to do so?
Instagram would be the best.
Instagram. And what's your Instagram handle?
It's just my first and last name. I'm not sure if it's out there on Facebook Live. I don't really use Facebook much, so I couldn't tell you. But Brandon Khaddor, Khaddor.
Awesome. We'll find Instagram. Anybody watching, text boost to 215-543-6454. We're having an amazing virtual event for 3 days in February. We're going to have Nacho Nut student pricing, but to be on that VIP list, text boost to 215-543-6454. We're going to have a whole Super Boost Festival about clinical aspects, business aspects, patient communication aspects. And Brandon, do you know the #1 KPI in every dental practice, like key performance indicator? People, do you have any idea what that is?
Fortunately not.
Yeah, so some people say profit, EBITDA, staff wages, none of that. You know what the #1 key performance indicator is? How many times as a dentist you feel like crying inside a day? You want to reduce that number, because I felt like crying inside this week when 4 team members were out due to COVID.
What's a good number?
Yeah, you need to reduce that number each day you work. So thanks so much, Brandon. Really appreciate you sharing with us. Did a lot of good. Nacho Verse. We'll talk to you guys soon.
Been a pleasure.